situation went against common sense. There's common sense factors you got to use in politics. The common sense factor should have happened in South Africa is, hey, we were oppressed. We had laws against us, so we're not going to make the same mistake that happened in the previously. We're going to make everything fair for everyone. We're going to do everything that's fair for everyone. We're not going to have laws that are based against race. We're going to have to the fittest, the best person for the job is going to get it. It don't matter what color you are. So the B laws are a total failure. It's one of the biggest reasons why South Africa's fallen. We were headed in the same kind of a direction here in America with stupidity in politics that we were failing. We were failing worldwide. We were an embarrassment worldwide. And now we got a strong guy in there. And people were kept telling me, Donald Trump ain't going to win. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that Donald Trump was going to win, and I won a lot of money betting against people that Donald Trump was going to win that election because I knew he would. Because America, what I call, if you don't love Donald Trump, you just don't love what America's founded on. There's nothing wrong with wanting to put your country first. There's nothing wrong, you as an Irishman, there's nothing wrong with you saying, hey, I want to put Ireland first. And that's a common sense factor. Once again, your politics fall into common sense factors. You're an Irishman, I'm an American. Whatever country you're from, you want your country to be first, But what I like about Trump is he's willing to work with Russia, like he said. To me, it was not common sense the entire time the Obama administration was against Russia, because I'm thinking, they're wanting to destroy ISIS. We want to destroy ISIS. So let's get together and let's destroy ISIS. There's nothing good to come out of being an enemy of Russia. There's nothing good at being at ends with Russia, not for us and not for the world. It'd be better to have a peaceful existence with Russia, a mutual respect with Russia, and the same with Israel. The vast majority of Americans are Israeli supporters, which might shock a lot of people, but we believe in the supporting of Israel. And believe it or not, some people may say superstitious or whatever it is. We believe, especially here in the Bible Belt, that your blessings as a nation come from blessing Israel. So we are highly into supporting Israel. We look at Israel as one of our strongest allies. It's one of the few. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. And so that's what we like about Trump too, coming on the scene. And it's just nice. Right after the election, I woke up that next day and I was like, I feel like it's America 1980s again under Ronald Reagan or something. It felt like I was in America again. As the 8 years, I was totally perplexed that the entire administration, it didn't feel American. The policies was not American. They were brainwashing the kids in school, for the last 8 years. And most of these kids, which are coming up, are going to be voting. So be prepared. Once these kids are in the voting age, we will most likely have another Democratic president, because of these kids, most of them coming through school has already been brainwashed into these policies, And but no, for right now, I think we've saved America for the next. Well, we saved it for one with getting a Supreme Court nominee that is against abortion. It's going to be announced, I think, next Thursday. Donald Trump's announcing that. So it's going to be, we saved the generation, because we're going to have a conservative in the Supreme Court. So that's one good thing. And possibly another one. Some of them are pretty old, so they think another opening might happen within the next 4 to 8 years too. And I definitely believe if Donald Trump wants the second nomination to presidency, he'll get it. I mean, he'll win it. But I don't know at the end of this 4 years if he'll win it again at his age and stuff. But hopefully he does. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the broad-based black economic empowerment laws, which amount to 119 anti-Boer laws. You also referred to land reform and in Zimbabwe and South Africa, and you've also mentioned the recent thawing of tensions with Russia. And also, while I myself personally disagree with um, the policies of Medinat Israel, I appreciate your honesty in support and saying what a lot of American people who would disagree with myself on the issue of Israel and Palestine would think. But I would like to um, concentrate on um, Zimbabwe and South Africa after just clarifying. So, do you think Donald Trump is very much in the mold of Ronald Reagan?
Yes, I see him actually being greater than Ronald Reagan at the end of his terms. I think this he's going to be ranked, in my opinion, one of the greatest presidents the United States has had since George Washington. And I even told people I felt in my spirit that God had putting a mantling of George Washington on this man. Even though he identifies with Andrew Jackson, he's really bold as in George Washington, as in getting things done. Even though he's not a military man, he has a general's mind. He's a great businessman, just like George Washington was. And I foresee him doing things that at the end of his term that is going to place him even one of the great conservative presidents of all time, because he's more bolder than any president we ever had. He don't pull punches, which I love, and most Americans do love it. You'll hear the media talking like, "Oh, you know what I mean?" But believe me, living here, man, we loved him. Even where I work at, they were like, the union was like, "We're supporting Hillary Clinton." I guarantee you there was no one in that union that voted for Hillary Clinton. It was just everybody was tired of it. We could not foresee a Hillary Clinton coming in and carrying on the same policies of Obama. And after Benghazi and everything else, America frowned on Hillary Clinton. You know, her biggest mistake, she probably could have become president if she would not have got associated with Obama. You know, getting caught up in Benghazi and everything else that went on, she got more of the heat than what he did for a lot of the issues. You know, she was more, I think, you may say she'd been scapegoat a little bit from the president because they weren't going to go against Obama on anything. He was the first African American president. And unfortunately, I see his total administration as being the most failed administration in American history. There was no patriotism. There was nothing about his administration that united the country, but divided the country. Lawlessness reigned free, just like it did in South Africa under the same style of policies. You know, setting prisoners free, just like they do in South Africa. I mean, it was totally an un-American environment for the last 8 years. So it's good to see, even though you got your crybabies out there, your college students, you're this, you're that are out there crying and whining. Hey, it's America again.
Just
Suck it up
a few points there.
and enjoy it.
It's funny that you were mentioning American patriotism and you were mentioning that Trump embodies it, but you also mentioned George Washington. He had the same patriotic streak as did Andrew Jackson, the last person, the
Yes.
last president to eliminate U.S. national debt. But as interesting as those points are, and we could speak all day on them, I would like to focus on South Africa and Zimbabwe. And
Right.
what do you think of the present situations in
Oh,
South
yes.
Africa and Zimbabwe?
Well, Zimbabwe is a complete nightmare. You're talking about a country that went from feeding all of its neighbors to, relying on imported food from the UN. Uh, Robert Mugabe was a nightmare to every countryman he was. He came in with the same mentality of tribalism. You know what I mean? People of his tribe prospered and the people that they consider not of their tribe or against their tribe, they suffered. Thousands upon thousands tortured and killed. And everybody in the world allows this man who claims to be the Black Adolf Hitler to sit there and stay in power. It's such a paper regime. It's such a paper regime. A minor revolution in that country would collapse it. And that's my opinion. A minor revolution would collapse that entire country. And the only thing that would save it would be UN intervention with troops and so forth. But it would totally collapse. Not even the people that pretend to be on Robert Mugabe's side, I don't think, are even on Robert Mugabe's side anymore. It's a failed regime. After a while, you just say it's failed. It's completely failed. You know, once they got rid of most of your white farmers and took over their lands, they just could not produce food anymore. You know, that's that same socialist, communist mentality of I want it, but I don't want to work for it. A farmer, there's no more hardworking man in the world, in any country you go to, as a farmer. Self-driven, self-motivated, and most very godly individuals too. You know, they know. I just not long ago, I was talking to a farmer here in my local area, and I shook his hand. I said, I appreciate everything you do. And he was kind of shocked at it. Without farmers, we don't eat. And that's the prime example of what has happened in Zimbabwe. Eliminated farmers, and now you're hungry. So, as in with Zimbabwe, it's a country I don't, after Robert Mugabe, I do not see it lasting long after Robert Mugabe. And hopefully it'll be took back and be put more in a real democratic situation, not these fake. It's just like what was that? Bennett, Roy Bennett, is that his name? You ever heard of him? He was a man. Actually, I was fascinated with the man. He was a farmer in Zimbabwe. He was elected by the people to be the head, I believe, of agriculture in Zimbabwe. And Robert Mugabe flipped his cookies. He had to leave, and he went to South Africa. He had to go into exile. I don't know if he's still there or not. I talked to him once on Facebook, you know, so I don't know what his situation is right now or nothing. But this is a man who not only speaks his language, he speaks several different tribal languages, and he's a fascinating individual. But this is a man that was elected by black people to head the agriculture, but Robert Mugabe's such a racist, he ran him out of the country. So I think there's a book, they talk a lot about him, and I think it was The Crocodile Ate the Sun, or something to that effect, and I forget the name of the book, so, but that's where I read about him at, was in this book, and just talking about the entire failure of Zimbabwe, how so many people were tortured and lives ruined. Just a sad to see a country, which people get mad at me because I'm saying Zimbabwe here, but I usually will never use that term. I still always call it Rhodesia. I always still refer to it as Rhodesia. When I had my last fight 2 years ago, I came under the name the Rhodesia Nightmare. I don't know if you ever knew about me having this boxing match or not. And it was for, yeah. And it was for the farmers of South Africa, for all white Africans. I did it in memory of Corey Sanders, who was killed, former heavyweight title holder that was killed at his daughter's birthday party. So I did this fight, and I fought the MMA heavyweight champ of Indiana, and I beat him. But during this training, I was previously married. My wife died. Then my dad contracted brain cancer. So where I was working at, I had to go down to part-time. I was taking care of my dad, who had brain cancer, going in training still. And everybody's like, you can cancel this fight if you want. And I'm like, no, I done promised all these people I'm going to do this fight, and I'm going to fight it. So I fought and I won it, and it was pretty cool. And it was one of the big things I'd done. I didn't make any money at it. The promoter was supposed to donate money from it. He skipped out on me. I wound up having to donate out of my own pocket. So not only did I fight, didn't make nothing, I paid out of my own pocket. But it was still a memorable night for me, and I did it all for white Africans, Boer, Afrikaner, whatever. I believe in war. I know a lot of Boers, but I promote unification amongst all white African, despite if you're a Boer or you're an Afrikaner. I believe the time now is, hey, unite, call yourself, all of you call yourself Boers, in my opinion. I have one friend that's an Afrikaner, and that's what he's done. He said, I call myself a Boer now. I will not use the term Afrikaner. He goes, because he believes in unification. And that's one thing, as in South Africa, what I see is this. You have Zulus, you have all these different tribes that have their tribal lands. Now, the only tribe in South Africa that don't have their own land is the white African, the Boer African. And my thing is this, is that there must be a Boer tribal land. A land that just like any other African there that has a tribe, that has a tribal land, there must be land set aside for the white African to be white African, to preserve their culture as much as everybody else. We see a culture that's being overran and destroyed in South Africa like it does in Rhodesia. We see these, and it is purposely done. It's a slow genocide is what's happening. Because if they do it too fast, it's going to look like, what, the Nazis. So, if it's a quick run of, yeah. So this is a slow genocidal factor. One of the biggest people in South Africa that's standing against this is a man who could leave South Africa. I consider him a friend. I mean, we don't hang out all the time. We'll occasionally talk. I met him once in Chicago. It's Steve Hoffmeyer. He's a man that has the capabilities to leave and say, hey, I'm just going to start my life anew and go abroad. But he don't. He stays there, and he's fighting against, and he may not identify himself as the leader of white Africans, but he's definitely, people say, oh, you can't use this term, but I see him as the Martin Luther King of white Africans. He's standing up, he's doing it in a peaceful manner, and he's very, I mean, what does he have to gain? He could easily just flip and go along with what's going on there, but he don't. He's standing up for his people. So I have a lot of great respect for him, too. And I met him, I think it was 2013 maybe, when he was in America. It may have been 2014. But a great guy. I hung out with him up in Chicago. We drank a beer or two and talked about South Africa. He did a great show, one of the best shows I've ever seen of a performer, and I've seen them all over here in America. So, yeah, it was a terrific night. Drinking coffee.
Which is another interesting parallel. So, why do you think many in Western society find it acceptable to ignore the deaths of over 70,000 Boer Afrikaners in South Africa under the African National Congress?
Yeah, it's an amazing thing.
I've seen the horror in a documentary.
When you go, there's a place in one area, it's a squatter camp called Coronation Park. Yes, you've heard of it? Okay. Okay. So there's people that will actually, they go there and they can, that are black, and most of them are not even aware. Not all of them, but most of them are surprised. yeah, the surprise to find out that they didn't even know there was white squatter camps because the government's covering it up. And yeah, the the character of an individual to let another individual suffer and starve. And I'm not, and with apartheid, there was wrongs, but there was jobs for all people. Some of the more doctors were produced with the black African in South Africa during the apartheid era than any other point. I mean, good doctors, you know, and so there was things that were bad and good with apartheid. As in, people talk today, apartheid. I see apartheid still in South Africa. If you don't see apartheid now in South Africa, then I don't know what to tell you. You're in denial. If you can't see the same aspects, you got 120 laws that are race-based on your books. Don't tell me there's not an apartheid. Don't argue with me that there's nothing going on in South Africa to destroy culture, to destroy another individual because of the color of her skin. You're lying. You're lying to yourself. And don't sit on a high horse and start talking about something that happened over 20 years ago. We're talking about what's going on today. Most of the people that suffer today that are in Coronation Park and these white squatter camps are people that never even lived during apartheid. They know nothing of the benefits of apartheid. And the people that are oppressing them are the same. They didn't live during apartheid either, a lot of them. They're benefiting from a new style of apartheid. If they say, oh, you must learn, never forget, you'll learn from the past. Well, apparently they have not learned anything because a reverse apartheid system is today. So what's going to happen? What is in the future of South Africa but another revolution because of an oppression that you've carried on, but just now with a different color of skin. They're setting themselves up for collapse again. And that's just a common sense factor. I'm not being a prophet or nothing. It's just, you see it. You know.
Majority areas in southern Africa, while being silent and ignoring 7,000, I beg your pardon, exclusively Bantu towns in South Africa. So basically, there are over 7,000 towns which are exclusively for a black Bantu ethnic group in South Africa, whereas the few Caucasian majority areas left are criticised and condemned.
Yeah, it's once again like kind of what I just said is that, yeah, the apartheidism, you know, being of apartheid is still there. It's they still do it. It's not. It's in subtle ways. You know what I mean? But it seems to be getting worse and worse. And here under the Obama regime, naturally, they closed a blind eye to anything that was happening in South Africa. I'm hoping with Trump, I know there's a lot of things in America he's got to take care of first, but I hope he at least puts an ambassador in South Africa, replaces the one that's there, and replaces him with a real ambassador that's looking at the entire situation in South Africa. Because red flags should have been flying into the White House of the things that's going on in South Africa. Not just the crime rate alone. I mean, it's it's just as dangerous being in some parts of South Africa as it is being in Afghanistan. But of course, it's like out here, if you go to Chicago, you go in certain parts of Chicago, it's just as bad as being in a war zone too. So, but at least here, that's something he's focusing on. He's going to try to get the situation in Chicago under hand. That's one of his campaign promises. But in South Africa, the bad thing is, outside of a squatter camp, it's hard for a white African to gain community, to unite together in a community they want to live in. And people say, well, that's being segregated or apartheid again because they're wanting to go and live by themselves and preserve their own culture. But even here in America, you got neighborhoods that are black neighborhoods, white neighborhoods, and you got some that are kind of a mixed neighborhood. But, to focus so much emphasis, I mean, once the white African is gone, who are they going to blame for their failures? Is my total thinking on the situation. Once the white farmer's gone, like it happened in Rhodesia, they blamed the white man till they almost ran every one of them out of the country. And now what is their excuse? I mean, now they're on UN food. If the UN just pulled back any kind of food distribution to their country, they'd be in starvation conditions, And a lot of them are still, in bad conditions. I mean, Rhodesia or Zimbabwe now is the country like to South Africa what Mexico is to America. They flow across the border trying to find jobs and improve themselves. But once you have a collapse of South Africa, then what happens? Yeah, it's a very detrimental state South Africa's in. I mean, you got so many people that want out. And you can't blame most of the white Africans that want to get out of their own country. They all, most of them have roots that go all the way back into the 1600s. I mean, people say, yeah, and colonial is a new word, what I call, it's a term used in a racial aspect now, and their politics. And it's no different than saying the word Kaffir to me. You're calling somebody, how long do you got to be in a country to be called, say, an African? How long do you got to be in a country to be called an American? How long do you got to be in a country till you're considered an Irishman? Or, so, is it 10 years, 100 years, 200 years, maybe even 300 years, and you're still not considered a resident of the country yet? It's amazing that most of these people that are called colonials and go back to your country have been there 300 years, some of them, and their roots go that deep. They're as African as any other African. They know nothing different, but they're being forced out of a country. And most of them do want to escape, but they have no means to escape. And that's the reason I think it's going to be detrimental to the point where I foresee nothing but a possible war in South Africa at some point. It's just, at that point, it's just, you can only push people so far to where they're going to be forced to defend themselves and retaliate. But I hope they don't. I pray for peace. I'm one of those individuals, I believe, I love to see everybody get along. And I think every man is a human. Every man has a soul. Every man deserves, a right to live. And I got into the South African thing from a friend who was a DJ. It was playing my band Tattoo Billy, a guy named Franz Moritz. And he didn't tell me about it. I seen a link on his page called Farm Murders. And I checked it out, and I asked him, I said, is this stuff really going on there? And he goes, yeah. He goes, this stuff's really happening here, unfortunately. So that's how I got into it. And I went in it somewhat naive over 10 years ago. I've been involved in supporting the Boer. Gave me the nickname, well, when I was a boxer, they started calling me the White Tiger. Then they started calling me the Boer Ambassador. So I kind of adopted the name because I've marched here. I've had Red October events here for it. So, I mean, that's how I am with a friend. Franz was my friend, and I jumped on it wholeheartedly, and I've learned as I went over the years the history and the culture and everything about South Africa that, makes it such a unique country and makes the Afrikaner and the Boer such a unique people and a unique culture. I'm not sure exact population, but I think there's only 3 million Afrikaners and Boer in South Africa.
It was after Nelson Mandela's death that I checked out what was happening in the current South Africa, and because they were reporting on race relations in South Africa, and I thought I'll look into this. And when I looked up race relations in South Africa, you can imagine what I came across and was shocked to come across, whereas you would have had the similar experience a decade previous with your friend. Link on the farm murders.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Uh, and at least Genocide Watch did have at least the Boer on a Genocide Watch. You know what I mean? Because of the levels, they have different stages, and they've always have been at a high level to where it's almost to the point it reads all the way up outside of the government openly saying kill, outside of them saying kill the Boer song. They have not like officially go ahead and take everything that belongs to the Boer and you can kill them and whatnot. But my whole point with the Boer, yes, they deserve to be on Genocide Watch, but all white Africans need to be on this watch list. And that's what is a shame, is that the Afrikaner has kind of been ignored in this situation. But really, even with the Boer, even though they're on this Genocide Watch list, they get no coverage about it. There's nothing that is out there to help them. And unfortunately, with them, what hurts their cause more than anything is so many groups that get on board of this for their own agendas, their own political agendas, that hurt it even worse. Is you've got so many groups that get on here that are so they won't never be recognized here in America because of certain groups. And I have nothing to get against them. They have the right to do whatever they want to do. But to me, a lot of people put a lot of faith in these groups, and they've done nothing but hurt the cause, because anything they're associated with brings down anything that could be possibly done because they're involved in it, and they see that they're involved in it. And I won't mention any names, but they know who they are out there, and if they'd get off of it and get out of it, it would probably generate a lot more attention from some news sources. But of course, just the stigma of Nelson Mandela's legacy has also helped hurt the word getting out. Unfortunately, so many people worldwide think, especially in the upper ups of of the world governments and stuff, think the Afrikaner and the Boer are getting what they deserve. You know what I mean? Because of apartheid, which is totally an ignorant assessment. You know what I mean? To watch people get suffer and get and like I said, if you go back on apartheid numbers, the ANC killed more of their own people than any government group did. I mean, they killed them over 20,000 of their own people. And
was when the National Party
and I mean, and I can't remember. Yeah, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but with the government itself, what may have been involved in killings of Africans, of black Africans, it was a few thousand compared to, and this is from the start of apartheid in the 19th, what was it, the year it started, 40, yes. So, yeah, and there was, and a lot of people get shocked when they find so many of the poor black Africans saying they wish apartheid was back because they at least had a job. So I mean, the effects of it is, it's just total corruption. What you look at in South Africa is total corruption, from all the way from Jacob Zuma to Molina to all these individuals that promote hate to enrich their pockets. They no more love or care for the people they say they do as they do for their own pockets. You know what I mean? They want to be powerful men and that's it, and enrich their pockets. I mean, just look at how they live. I mean, look at the president of South Africa, how he lives. He lives a millions upon millions of dollars. Where do you get that money? I mean, you look at our presidents when they retire, they get a small thing. They live in somewhat moderate houses. They don't live in these lavish mansions. How do you get a lavish mansion like that? This is a guy stealing from his own people that he says he's representing. At least you could say when you look back at when the whites ruled in South Africa and the government, it was a almost corrupt free government. Very rarely did you see corruption where money was being stolen. They put back. They protected. They didn't overmine. They didn't do all this. You got a government now that sells out all their mining rights to other countries, and they don't care anything. Yeah, yeah. So to me, my biggest hope is Donald Trump will recognize, and like I said, and I encourage all your listeners and everybody to contact the United States government. Uh, I've sent letters. I send them addressed as the Boer ambassador to America, and because I do feel like I represent this group of people here in America, and everybody that's in their own country, that recognize with this. Consider yourself the Boer ambassador to that country, and do all you can to let your government know what's transpiring in South Africa, because something needs to be done. And like I said, just the recognition, if Donald Trump just recognizes what's going on in South Africa, just the recognition alone is enough to say, hey, at least he's recognizing what's going on and he's not turning a blind eye. And I do look for him to address it, maybe not real soon, because there's so much stuff here in America that we're dealing with right now. But I think once he gets over the hump on some things, I do look for him to recognize it. But I don't know. He's the kind of guy, he seems to be able to juggle several hundred things all at once, so he may address it even sooner than I think, if enough people can bring it up to his attention. So I encourage people to write the White House. If you live in South Africa, write the White House. I mean, wherever you live at, if you're a South African that's out and left your country because of the way it was, write the President of the United States. Let everybody know that you can. That's the only way you can get it out, is to write. I've contacted governors and everything else in my country to let them know. So once you let people know, your conscience is cleared because you've done something about it. Now it's on them if they know about it, because to know what is evil and not do anything about it, you've committed evil. You're going along with it. So has it made me popular to stand up for this cause? No. It's made me very unpopular. You get called a racist. You get a lot of heat. It's not a very popular cause to get into, but I know it's a right cause, because I feel the Afrikaner and the Boer have been demonized by the media and everything else, and it's not so. And you probably know a lot of Afrikaners and Boer yourself. They're great people, and it's very unfair, and it's a shame to anybody to demonize these people. You go to Coronation Park, look at the people. You're going to tell me it's fair? This is just that these people are forced out of the job market and must live in. Yeah, it's awful. We as humans, we owe each other. We're all brothers. We owe each other to be fair and do the best we can to each other, to love each other and take care of each other. It's God's law. It's the way Jesus would have did it. I do not dislike any man, black, white, red, yellow. So when I get called a racist, it's kind of funny, because I'm one of those individuals. I can get along with anybody. When I boxed when I was younger, I fought out of one of the worst ghettos in Cincinnati, called Winton Terrace. I fought out of there. I was the only white guy in the entire gym, and fought all over the country. I traveled with them, and they identified with me as like one of them. So I mean, I can crossing cultural barriers.
So, we've got the connection back, Ed, and I would like to ask you, what do you think of the 10, between 10 and 14 Boers being murdered in South Africa every week? And what do you think of Zimbabwe's Caucasian population being reduced by 92,000 under Robert Mugabe?
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it's despicable that crime is running so rampant in a country that used to have a very low crime rate for an African nation, over 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's just continuously declining. With Robert Mugabe, he turned his own forces on his own people. I mean, torturing, and I mean, it's just despicable, the rapes and the mayhem that went on there, people being ruined sexually and everything from tortures to everything else. So it's a very sad, miserable existence for Zimbabwe right now. And I hope once Robert Mugabe's gone that they're able to get it together. As long as Robert Mugabe's living, if that is Robert Mugabe living and not some double man. It's almost like this guy's been alive forever now. But without a doubt, a change has got to happen in Zimbabwe. It won't last another 20 years at the way it's been ran. In the same way as South Africa, I don't see South Africa escaping another possible internal war. It going in the same direction in the next 20 years. And not only do I think this revolt from the inside will be just white Africans, I believe it's going to be many black Africans too. There's many black Africans that are disenfranchised in South Africa too by the ANC. These being people that come from other countries that, xenophobia don't escape just because you're black. They'll hunt you down if you're a black Zimbabwe or whatever, and you're in this country and you're doing good. They want to take what you got and they're going to kill you for it. They'll kill you for a cell phone in South Africa. So it's a very dangerous place unless you know exactly where you're going and who's going to take you there. So if you ever think of going, anybody listening, make sure you're very prepared. You have a guide, and that makes sure you don't go into the wrong area, because the wrong turn will leave you dead in South Africa, or raped. It's rape capital of the world right now. And I mean, you got men being raped just as bad as women being raped. It's terrible conditions.
Another thing, you have a 50% chance of being raped once you leave your residence in South Africa, and this brings me on to another couple of questions, and I think we may have already spoken about it. What are the most severe examples of torture in farm attacks, and do you think the Union of South Africa should exist, and would it not be better if the Cape, the Transvaal, the Orange Free State, Banda, Bapedi, Gazankulu, Ndebele, KwaZulu and Kwakasa went independent, and Botswana got Bophuthatswana, and Swaziland got Pangani likewise?
Yeah, like I said, the farm attacks are very gruesome. Sometimes nothing's even taken from the residents. It's just pure rape and murder. And most of the time when they come in, they'll make the man watch as they rape the woman before, killing them. Children are not spared. There's been so many children killed in these farm attacks too. And for what? It's beyond me who could even go in and do these things to people is barbaric in itself. But to me, it's like I was saying earlier, the only answer to this situation, and I've encouraged it for years, and it's very risky and it's very dangerous to say these things. I say do as much as you can in peace, but it's to the point now where all Boer, you own a farm, your neighbor, you unite, and you file a declaration of separation from this country, even if it's in your mind, as in you're separating from this country. But I almost say file a formal declaration, all farmers unite, all Boer unite, and force this homeland. there's got to be a Boer land. There's got to be a Boer republic. There's no escaping that. The only way for white Africans to continue in South Africa is to have a land of their own. There's got to be a Boer homeland within South Africa that is a tribal land. No different than the Zulus got, no different than any other tribe in South Africa's got. This. Want me to continue where I left off? I think I kind of answered that question.
Indeed. And would it be wise if Zimbabwe was put into Mashonaland, Matabeleland, and a territory for the Southern Rhodesians?
I can agree with that assessment.
Yep.
That's a very good assessment. Because at the rate it's going, it's not going to last anyways. You know what I mean? It's already there where it's collapsed. It's just the UN's keeping it alive with food and money help. Other than that, it would already be a collapsed nation. It's there already. It was failed. You know, and one thing I always say to people, it's easy to cause revolution, but it's hard to run a country. Anybody can destroy a country with revolution, but not everybody can run a country.
And what do you think of the hate speech and incitement against Caucasians in South Africa and Zimbabwe? Specifically, the insightful, hateful songs Dubala and Bruno, Ayasaba Magwala, and the Peter Makaba chant Kill the Boer and Kill the Farmer.
Yeah, and as again, if this was a white politician on any other part of the world that was speaking like this, it would be headline news. But they try to defend this Kill the Boer song with, oh, it's a traditional just song and they don't mean nothing by it, even though the words are totally obvious of what the intent is. Yeah. And like I said, today, white Africans are facing a total obliteration of their culture and possibly their own lives if something within the next 20 years is not done. This is only going to continue to snowball out of control. You know what I mean? And when you got a government, it gives you the mentality that it's okay. It's okay. It's the same mentality. They're just white people. It's okay. They're just black people. It's okay. They're not really human. It's okay. And that is what we're getting out of the South African government. You know what I mean? Is that white people they owe us, and, you know, we're in charge now and they're going to be punished for, it's something that, once again, we said earlier that most of these people that are suffering under this new regime did not even live during apartheid, you know. And if you talk to them, none of them are really racist. So I tell people, I said, I even talk to Boers that they say, well, I hope my black neighbor who just got this farm can actually grow the food, and we're going to try to help him best we can. But the mentality, once that work comes in and the management of a farm comes in, the farm usually fails. You know, they try to help. That's what people don't realize. They think like they're against black people. They want other farmers that are black to be successful just like they do too, you know. But they want their own farms too. It's been in their families forever, you know. And so there's got to be some changes. And to me, B laws need obliterated. They're nothing but a nuisance. They're nothing but something to, you know, cause more strife. And going back on apartheid, everything, you've heard them blame everything from, we're lacking water because during apartheid they built the dams too big. I mean, this is kind of ignorance you get. This ain't like stuff you see in the Western world. So I tell people, you can't look at South Africa and put it in a frame of mind of the Western idea, just like you can't the Middle East. You come in here, These people are tribal people. They have traditions. They believe, a lot of them, in magic and witchcraft. You know what I mean? And it's a very different world. This ain't a Western world. And so you can't put the mentality of Western racism or something like, oh, it's racist, white against black. No, you got racists there that are tribe against tribe. They don't like one another. The Zulu, you can't even marry outside the tribe. You talk about apartheid, they can't even marry outside their tribe without their king's permission. Isn't that apartheid? Or is that tribalism? So that's what I try to tell people. I was like, you cannot put apartheid and the system, why it was established, into order. Did I say, was it a failed system? Well, it failed because of pressure worldwide. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I believe in an oppression of nobody, oppression of any people. But when you look back at it, it was a system that was designed for that area. It was safer to keep certain groups of people away from each other. It's better the Zulus stay with the Zulu than be over here, because these people don't get along. You know, this tribe don't get along. It's a tribal system, and that's what I try to tell a lot of people. There was a bit of Western frame of mind with the Afrikaner and the Boer, but then again, they are a unique people that are much tribal, as in with the Boer, as in traditions of their families. So I mean, to me, is it like a tribe? No, but they are a unique culture that have their own ideas and culture and stuff. And to me, if they want their own homeland, if they want their own to be around each other, there should be no law prohibiting these people to be together like any other tribe or any other people. I mean, it's only natural and common sense factors that you're attracted to be around your own people. If you're hanging in a bar, you had a bunch of Yanks on one side and a bunch of Irish on the other side, who do you want to drink a pint with? You know what I mean? You're going to get over with your Irishman. I mean, it's just a natural sense. There's nothing racist against it. It's just we as a people are attracted to be around our people. And it's not racist to stand up for your people in any shape or form. And that's why I tell people it's a common sense. Let's throw the common sense factor in. Take the politics out. And let's throw the common sense factor. And then once you start thinking more common sense in these issues, the more you're like, you know what? You're right. And we're just all humans. And that's cool. And let's try to get along with each other. But when you got a government that the only thing they want to do is keep bringing up racist things and atrocities, supposed atrocities of the past, you're never going to get past it. And the thing here, we have Native Americans here. And if anybody's got the right to really complain and bitch, forgive the term, is the Native Americans of America. I mean, these people, great people. I got a little bit of Native American blood in me. I had a fourth great grandmother that was a Chickasaw Indian. So, but these people are great people. They've went on past everything that's happened in the past, and you know, a lot of them are very prosperous today with casinos and everything else. These great people, an example to the world. You know what I mean? Of what perseverance can. You don't give up. And that's one thing I hope with the Afrikaner and the Boer, is that perseverance. I hope all of them don't go exodus and leave their culture. I know it's a temptation, and it's almost, you know, and I can understand that they do, but once they're out, the culture is going to diminish. You know what I mean? It's gone. So hopefully something is done within the next few years, because like I said, within 20 years, I don't see it going past without some form of internal war. You know what I mean? I ain't necessarily going to say it's Afrikaner or Boer. It's going to rebel. It could be in another type of situation, but within 20 years, with the corruption that's there, it's going to give or take. You know, there's without a doubt something's going to happen. And so hopefully, if they can get Jacob Zuma out of there, get a more moderate president that, even if he's black, he's a man that's in a frame of mind of unification of the country. And that's what the country needs. If you can't unify the country, and if it's going to keep going the way it is, without a doubt, I still think, even with unification of a good leader, the Boer needs land of their own to exist and preserve their culture and protect herself. I mean, the Zulus got it. You know what I mean? They can protect their self. They can protect their culture. They even have their own king within their tribe. Same as any other tribes there. They all have a right to exist and be around each other, but the white Africans. So tell me, how fair is that? They can't even have a community together. You know what I mean? As soon as they do, the government's coming in trying to break it up. It's almost they're trying to force them into. They want them to marry outside the race too. That's a real prolific. I mean, when you hear a man like, there's one guy that was a youth leader of the ANC. He was bragging about, yes, now I have me a white woman. I'm thinking, if that's what you're basing your entire self-esteem on, is that you got a white girlfriend, that's a problem. You know what I mean? And I have no problem if you want to, if you want to have a black girlfriend or white, that's fine. That's your choice. But don't base your self-esteem just because, you know what I mean? So the mentality that is coming out of the whole thing, it's almost, if they can't breed you out, run you out, or kill you out, you know, and that's the whole mentality that's going on in South Africa. If we can't breed you out, we're going to kill you out, and if we can't run you out, you know, we're going to starve you out. We're going to put you into places, force you into areas like Coronation Park, and you're going to sit there and you're going to live a miserable existence till you die. And what's sad is hearing some of the people talk, they're like, well, some of them are very resistant about what's happening. Like, hey, I didn't even grow up during apartheid, which, I'm of that same opinion. And you got others that were like, well, I had a good life then, and I guess we're just getting, they've already been beaten down to the point where they've gave up. Like, I guess it's just the fate, you know, we're getting what we deserve because it's been pounded in them. You're getting what you deserve from the government and everybody else in the world. But I tell you, you're not getting what you deserve. That's not what God wants for them. It's not what they want for themselves. So it's that perseverance. You got to go past. It's a tough battle. But I've been telling people for years, you got to pick a leader. Without a doubt, white Africans, Boer, Afrikaner, have got to select a leader that's going to represent them, and they all got to get behind him. And to me, the logical candidate is Steve Hofmeyr. I don't know what I'm not talking for Steve. I don't know where Steve's mind frame is. He probably don't want that. But he's the most vocal and well-known Afrikaner in the world. You know, and he's the most vocal and outspoken and not afraid to stand up, and that's what you got to have in the leader. He don't back down. You know, good guy.
Ed, you've just reminded me of the next question with the mention of Stephen Hofmeyr again. Are you optimistic about the Boer delegation to Trump and the fact that British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson has a strong dislike of Robert Mugabe? Are you optimistic about these developments?
With the British, I'm not. With the situation you just mentioned, Johnson is his name.
Yeah, he hates Mugabe, and he's quite outspoken.
So he hates Mugabe. Well, I hope today we have the Prime Minister of England and America. And I'm hoping, and from what I'm seeing here, it's really a shock and awe that's going worldwide. So I look for him. He's Donald Trump, and I think with the English, they're wanting that because they're leaving, bed streaks. They're leaving the European Union. They're ready to get with America, and I look for them to look into governments like Robert Mugabe, and they're going to say, hey, why is we keep giving you money and you're supporting this kind of a situation that is a waste of money. And Donald Trump's a great businessman, and he's already said that about the UN now. Like, hey, if you guys are going to go against everything that we have a conscience about, then we're not going to fund you. You know what I mean? We'll just back our money out. So I look for the UN. If America pulls out, we are the UN. Without our money supporting it, there's no UN. They meet in New York. So, and that's one of my biggest hope is we do leave the UN. I hope we do leave the United Nations and we get back to more what America is about, and that's freedom and freedom for all people, and none of this political correct stuff. That's what I like about Trump. He's coming in. He's not politically correct. He's just like our original founders, and I believe our original founders were the same way. They weren't politically correct either. They just talked in the common man's tongue, you know.
Also, this brings us on to the last question. What are your thoughts on anti-Caucasian racism in general?
Say that one more time.
What are your thoughts on anti-Caucasian racism in general?
You have to break that down to layman's terms for me.
Oh, basically racism against white people.
Oh, okay. Uh, it's a global thing that's going into political type of things with governments, and that's what I liked about the Donald Trump election. It kind of broke it. It was happening here too. I mean, there was government programs that were with taxpayer money flying ANC members to the United States to talk in colleges, and it wasn't long after that, and I kept warning people. I was like, we're going to start seeing the same kind of things that are happening in South Africa here, and then after a few years, people were like, wow, you were right about that. I mean, you had them trying to block highways, shut highways down. These are ANC-style protests, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I seen the same thing come to America because I already knew who Obama's heroes were, which were ANC, you know what I mean? And African National Congress, you know, you're talking one of the most violent uh, groups to rise up, Spear of the Nation, you name it. I mean, these people were blowing up, and the things you don't hear about is the atrocities of the ANC. The only thing you hear about is apartheid atrocities. But once again, the same kind of thing was happening here with the governments and white guilt, all this bull crap that was taught in schools. I tell people, I say, I'm not going to have white guilt because of something happened over 200 years ago. This man knows no different about being a slave as I do being a slaveholder. You know what I mean? And not all Americans owned slaves. It was only the few rich Americans, and most white American farmers hated it that were poor farmers because it took away from sharecropping. So, you know, unless you know history and know truth about history, you know, you're going to buy into it. You know the truth, you're not going to buy into it. It's no different than the Barbary pirates and selling millions, you know, over millions of white people into slavery into the Middle East and stuff. It's a known fact, but nobody talks about that. It's all history is set for political agendas, as we know. And unless you study history yourself, you're not going to know truth and what's not truth. And luckily, I'm quite interested in history. I know American history quite a bit in and out, and so I never bought into it, and I preached against it. It caused me a lot of heat here, but thing is, most people didn't buy into it anyways, because in our area, you know, we take pride in, and we fought in the American Revolution. Our ancestors, we take pride in everything about being American, you know, and not that we think we're that great, but we are one of the few nations in the world where you're allowed to talk how I'm talking right now. I could get you locked up anywhere else in the world, you know. I could sit back here and I can say what I want about South Africa because I'm not in South Africa. I got that. I got the pleasure of freedom and freedom of speech. Of course, if I was in South Africa, I'm the kind of individual, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to fight, and I am still going to hold out these same opinions, and it would probably cost me you know, much like much of the white Africans there. Yeah, I'm pretty much outspoken, kind of like Steve. Steve's a lot more versatile and good at speaking than I am, but I am much like him. I definitely believe in the coming of a Boer republic, an Africana nation amongst itself, as in land granted to them. Yeah. So it's got to be done without a doubt, and I hope most if an leadership can ever be elected, that's the problem. But what's going on now? There's not a direct leadership representing the Afrikaner and the Boer, you know, and so there's got to be a leader picked. And it's got to be a willing leader. It's got to be some, you know what I mean, and it's got to happen that way. It's much like the Kipling. You've heard of the Kipling
The Kipling?
Republic? Kipling, something Kipling, I believe Kipling. It was a Boer republic. It started, and it was more out of idea
Right.
back in against Britain, and they started it. It didn't last,
Very long.
but it took on that mentality that
We're
we're not
independent.
listening to you because we're our own people. We're not listening to you, and that's how it started. And that's how this has got to start. It's got to start in here. Revolutions and things don't have to be always violent as much as they start here in your mind. It's like William Wallace when he went before Edward's court. They said, "Well, you're being found of treason," and he said, the one thing they know he said, and this is what he said for sure, is like, I can't be guilty of treason because I never took allegiance to
Okay.
Edward the Longshakes. You know what I mean? And that's the mentality you got to have. Is like we are Boers, we are white Africans, and we are our own people. You know, and if you're not going to represent us as a government, we will not be part of this government. So it starts in the mind. You know, and this ain't to say encourage violence or go out and do anything wrong. It's up here. That's how you're going to preserve culture. That's how you're going to. It's here. Do not be beat down to the point where you do not believe it here anymore. You got to keep it here. It's like I am a Boer. I am an Afrikaner. Much like I am an American. That's what I had to do for 8 years under Obama. So keep it here. And the resistance is here. And unification is there. Throw the pride out the door. Everybody wants to be a leader, but everybody can't be a leader. So you take that person. It's the monk, and like I said, I'm still an advocate. Seeing Steve Hoffmeyer, I know a lot of people are against Steve Hoffmeyer too, but he's the most vocal, got the biggest platform, and really
Right.
cares about his people. Yeah, so he'd be to me the best selection of one of them. And like I said, you just have to have one great leader. You can have a whole panel of them, but something in that effect's got to be done for it to happen. Excuse me. But the problem is, you know what I mean? There's so much pride and stuff amongst uh,
Egos.
a lot of people, not just Afrikaner and Boer, but people in general, that everybody wants to be a leader. But a good is to be able to sit back and say, hey, this guy's more capable. We need to pick somebody. And that's what's got to happen. And it's got to happen soon. Like I said, I don't see South Africa making it outside another 20 years without some kind of an internal rebellion or revolution of some kind. And
That would and just on a thing you said there, you were talking about how the legacy of slavery is used in racist hatred, but um, you know how Michelle made a speech at the Democratic Convention about the White House being built by slaves?
yeah.
Both herself and Barry were directly descended from slave owners. And on another thing about the legacy of slavery, there were more white Irish slaves in America than there were black African slaves. But they're
Hmm.
inconvenient facts which are often glossed over. And I would like to thank you, Ed Begley, for doing this interview for alternative political analysis. It is greatly appreciated.
Oh, it was a pleasure, and I enjoyed it. And I'll try to shout out your YouTube page out there and stuff too. And we got my band Tattoo Billy. We got a few songs out about South Africa too. You can find them out on iTunes and stuff. And Children of Ham and Tertius Wild. So if you want to check those songs out, there's probably free downloads for them too out there if you look around enough. And got a novel that just came out called Mago's Curse. So if anybody wants to check that out.
Anyway, thank you very much, and that will conclude um, this interview, and I will upload it as soon as possible and send you the link. Thank you.
Okay, it sounds good. Thank you.